Welcome to Star Expose. If you love celebrity news and real entertainment updates, you're in the right place. Nobody is ever ready for grief. It doesn't knock politely, it doesn't schedule an appointment. One moment, life feels perfectly ordinary, coffee brewing, laughter in the background, and the next, your heart feels like it's been split open by silence. Even the strongest among us, the ones who seem unshakable, find themselves brought to their knees by loss. And yet, somehow, grief always finds a way to teach us. It teaches us how to love more deeply, how to hold tighter, and how to see beauty in the fleeting moments we once took for granted. That's exactly what happened to Kelly Ripa, a woman millions have come to know for her humor, her grace, and her boundless optimism. But in early 2025, viewers saw a side of Kelly they had never witnessed before. On what was meant to be another lighthearted morning of television, laughter, and celebrity chatter, the show opened with an unfamiliar stillness. Her co-host and husband, Mark Consuelos, spoke in a tone that immediately made everyone stop what they were doing. Yesterday, he said quietly, "We had to say goodbye to Chewie." The words hung in the air like heavy mist. Kelly, always the heartbeat of joy, the one who could make anyone laugh through tears, broke down. And it wasn't the polished, TV-friendly kind of sadness. It was raw, unfiltered, the kind of grief that reaches through a screen and sits right beside you. She took a deep breath and whispered, "I thought I had it all figured out, but grief doesn't work that way." Her voice cracked. "Chewie gave us so much." Her co-host reached out gently, his hand resting over hers. The studio went silent. It was the kind of moment that makes you forget you're watching television. It felt like being invited into someone's living room, into a piece of their heart. Chewie wasn't just a pet, she was family. For years, she had been by Kelly's side, through every milestone, every season of life. When the kids went off to college, Chewie stayed behind, filling the empty spaces with unconditional love. When days got hard, she was there, wordless but understanding. And just like that, the cheerful mornings of Live were filled with tears, not of performance, but of real human emotion. Kelly tried to apologize for crying on camera, but she didn't need to. Viewers across the world cried with her. Because everyone who has ever loved and lost, a pet, a parent, a friend, knows that grief doesn't follow the rules. It arrives suddenly, like a wave that pulls you under just when you think you're standing tall. The outpouring of love was immediate. Fans filled social media with condolences, stories, and pictures of their own beloved pets. Bouquets arrived at her home. Letters came in from people who had never met her, but who had felt seen by her vulnerability. For them, Chewie wasn't just Kelly's dog. She was a shared memory, a piece of joy they had all witnessed on their screens. And now her loss belonged to everyone. Kelly joked later that it felt presidential, seeing so many people line up outside her home to pay respects. Mail carriers, neighbors, even fans from across town stopping by to leave flowers. But behind the humor was something deeply moving, a realization that love, even the kind we give to our pets, connects us in ways we can't always explain. And then there was something even stranger, something that Kelly herself called beautifully mysterious. In Chewie's final moments, Kelly said she saw something shift, a spark, a pulse of energy that seemed to fill the room for just a second. Scientists might call it a neurological surge, that strange burst of brain activity right before death. But to Kelly, it felt like something entirely different. "She looked right at me," Kelly said softly, recalling that instant. "It was like she was saying goodbye, or maybe reminding me that love doesn't end." It was eerie. It was comforting. It was something beyond words. And that's when Kelly realized something powerful. Farewells aren't about endings. They're about transitions, about carrying someone's spirit forward in laughter, in memory, and the quiet moments we still expect to hear their footsteps in the hall. For days after that episode aired, fans couldn't stop talking about it. Not because it was sad, though it was, but because it was so deeply human. It reminded everyone that even someone as seemingly unshakable as Kelly Ripa could crumble, could cry, could still get up and smile through the tears. It reminded people that being vulnerable doesn't make you weak, it makes you real. Mark stood by her side through all of it. As he comforted her on live television, his face said everything words couldn't. They'd been partners on and off screen for decades. Lovers, teammates, co-parents, co-hosts. And in that moment, you could see exactly what that bond was made of. When she faltered, he steadied her. When she laughed through tears, he joined her. And when the show went off air, the two simply sat together. No cameras, no audience, just two people leaning on each other the way they always had. In the days that followed, Kelly began sharing small reflections with her audience, not as a celebrity, but as a person still learning how to live with loss. She talked about how grief sneaks up at the strangest times, in the middle of a cheerful morning, in the grocery aisle, while folding laundry. She talked about how the sound of Chewy's collar used to be her favorite melody in the house, and how now silence had become a teacher. Grief doesn't disappear, she said once. It changes shape. Some days it's heavy, some days it's light, and some days it makes you laugh when you least expect it. Her words hit home for so many people. Fans shared their own stories of loss, of love, of pets who had saved them in quiet ways. People from every corner of the country found something familiar in her pain. And through it all, Kelly kept showing up. She smiled again, cracked jokes, and let laughter find its way back into her world. Because that's who she's always been, someone who believes that laughter is the heartbeat of healing. One morning, she brought out a small frame and placed it on the table beside her. Inside was a picture of Chewy, tongue out, mid-bark, caught in the act of pure happiness. Kelly smiled at the camera and said, "Now, she's part of every show." And everyone watching at home smiled right back. Because in truth, that's what love does. It stays. It lingers in the corners of our laughter, in the spaces between words, in the scent of an old blanket, or the echo of a bark down an empty hallway. Kelly's story became more than a celebrity moment. It became a reflection of what it means to love without limits and to lose without losing yourself. She reminded the world that grief isn't the end of love. It's proof that love existed in the first place. And when she returned to her show weeks later, stronger, lighter, still carrying that same spark of humor, her fans saw something extraordinary. Not perfection, not the glossy version of happiness we're used to. They saw real courage, the kind that chooses joy, even when joy feels impossible. Kelly once said, "If love could keep someone alive forever, none of us would ever lose anyone." But maybe, in a way, love does make them live forever. Through our stories, our laughter, our kindness. Through the way we continue on, just as they'd want us to. So when the cameras rolled again, and she smiled that familiar smile, the one that had comforted millions for years, it wasn't to hide the pain, it was to honor what had been lost, and to celebrate what still remained. Because the truth is, laughter and love are not opposites of grief. They're companions. They're what carry us forward when everything else feels too heavy. Kelly's story, her openness, her tears, her strength, became a quiet revolution in a world that often hides sadness behind filters and perfect smiles. She reminded everyone watching that vulnerability can be its own kind of beauty. And maybe that's why people will always remember this moment. Not as the day Kelly Ripa cried on live TV, but as the day she showed the world that love, in all its messy, heartbreaking glory, is still the most powerful thing we have. So tonight, if you're missing someone, whether it's a friend, a parent, a partner, or a loyal companion who once greeted you at the door, remember Kelly's lesson. Hold on to the laughter. Keep their memory alive in the stories you tell. Smile when you think of them, even if your eyes fill with tears. Because in the end, love doesn't end. It transforms, it travels, it lingers. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it still. Thanks for watching Star Expose. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned.